Hi again everybody, I hope you're all doing well. Just a follow-up video really on the Range Rover Classic that we have. As you can see, it's been moved, it's in a secure location now. So I said in my last video that this is a bit of an oddity. There's something going on with its previous owners and the logbooks issued, and I have got an update, well, multiple updates with it really. So yeah, this was an ex-demonstrator. It was sold from Solihull. I've got all the provenance at home for it now. Then it was used as a reps car at Solihull for a time, and then apparently somebody must have bought a Vogue SE. Something happened with their car, it burnt out, or the repair wasn't worth fixing the car under warranty, and this was issued as the warranty car for it. And my guess, being the fourth owner, that man must have thought, I don't want to be lumbered up with another one of these. So he sold it to the man that had it previous to myself. So there is an update with its history, which in itself is pretty exceptional. I've got a heritage certificate coming with the provenance to say, you know, it was an ex-Land Rover car. So that's the first part with it. There's something that I neglected, because when do you ever look? I've had a few dedicated Range Rover Classic Land Rover fanatics come and have a look at it. Well, not really come and have a look at it. They've come to buy parts off of me and have a bit of work done. It started off about 2 weeks ago. Somebody came over and he said, my God, do you know what you've got there? And I was apprehensive, and seeing as nobody else on any of the other videos have noticed it, I'm not really sure. I have followed up a lot with JLR and Kingsley Range Rover Restorations and quite a few other companies. So what this attains to is that. And on the bonnet, they're hidden. So my understanding is it's a crossover in 1988. This car was built in December, I think it was the 19th, 1988. And it was registered in January 1989. So being a Vogue SE makes it already rare, and this is where it's based a lot in myth, and hopefully somebody out there, maybe somebody that worked on the Range Rover production lines in 1988/1989 could maybe post a bit more information on this. So the Vogue SE was obviously the top spec, the pinnacle of the Range Rovers, and they were designed all the time to have these hidden, like the later 1989 onwards cars. The legend has it that these were sent down a North American production line at some point in its assembly. Consequently, they ended up with these hinges exposed. It only features on cars from March 1988 to December 1988. There's also some indiscrepancy with the fuel flaps on them as well. It shouldn't have that style of fuel flap on it. It's the cable type, it's not pop type. There's some indiscrepancy with that. And then the fact that it's got a 3.5 litre in it is the final piece of what makes this, I struggle to believe it, but unbelievably rare, allegedly. There is one car, maybe the most famous Range Rover Classic in existence, the Essex Boy Range Rover. If you look at that, she's F registered, and she also has the hinges exposed and the bonnet hinges hidden, and has the same fuel flap, and is a 3.5. So naturally this did pique my interest when this aficionado told me about the hinges and a few other things. It was a Sunday, so I couldn't really contact anybody. But as soon as Monday came around, I called up every Range Rover specialist in the country, and everybody said, yeah, there is something in that. Regular Range Rovers, there was a few made. Like I say, it was a 6-month production crossover where they had these on them, but the Vogue was always designed to never have them exposed. The legend from all these aficionados is apparently there's about 20 of these. So if that's the case, it makes it rarer than a CSK. I don't know if that necessarily makes it more valuable. I've contacted a few magazines, and I've actually got Classic Land Rover coming out to do a centre page spread on it. I have had a lot of interest in it. I was going to restore it, but it's very strange, these Range Rover Classics, because there's such a huge cult following to them. It becomes a bit scary working on them. I really don't know what its value is. It is for sale, I suppose, now, only because, you know, as much as I like a Range Rover Classic, you know, somebody that would appreciate these hinges and the dealer Land Rover history attached to it, there's somebody out there that's going to absolutely adore this thing, and it's going to be, you know, their pride and joy, the apple of their eye, or whatever it may be. Whereas for me, it would never be that. It would just be a Range Rover Classic that I'd knock about in a bit and use. So I was wondering if anybody else has heard anything about this or knows anything more about it, or even has a Vogue SE 3.5 with this very specific door hinge indiscrepancy. People refer to it as a manufacturing error, and other people refer to it as a crossover. All that I'm led to believe is none of the Vogue SEs should have had it. And it's never featured on a 3.9. You can't get a 3.9 with the hinges like that. It was only these very early ones. Whether it makes it more collectible, desirable, I assume so. Because if you know, these aren't like P38s or any generic other classic car. There's some people that literally have one of each of these, and if it is something as rare as that, then maybe. I've learned a lot about it, but I'm not an expert on this particular set of circumstances. I did drive it here, so, you know, I fixed the transmission leak and everything. It sat here for a while. So I suppose I just wanted to get a bit more advice and let the world know that if it is as rare as what everybody's told me as it is, I've got one and it's for sale. In terms of value, I really couldn't tell you what it's worth. I don't know. It is booked into the Birmingham NEC Classic Car Auction in November. They couldn't really give me a roundabout idea on what it's worth. If it was on the road, that would, you know, make it easier to value really. But obviously you've seen the previous videos that this is not a concourse example. That said, when it comes to something that's rare, and I just don't know if something as obscure as the door hinges and, you know, the history as it's got makes it obscure enough to warrant restorations, you know, increase its value exponentially. I don't know. If it's not worth a reasonably substantial amount of money, I just keep it. You know, I appreciate the history. As I say, I just don't really know how to value it. It's done 79,500 miles, so it's done 20,000 miles less than the Essex Boys Range Rover. Apparently it's in quite a unique colour. JLR are contacting me back with more specifics of, you know, which production line this car ran down back in the day. I don't know. It's perplexing. The whole story is, from it being a demonstrator with a production error. Is that, you know, surely Land Rover would have looked at that and thought, well, that's not right. You know, if we're going to market this thing, why would we market the one that's not been built properly? I don't know. So if anybody's got any, you know, enhanced knowledge, methodical knowledge on these, I have spoke to a few people that are methodical in the knowledge of them, and they've all said the same. It's just, for me, I can't really believe it. I can't believe that a Range Rover could just turn up and it could possibly be that kind of rarity. So if anybody knows, just leave a comment on the video, or any really detailed knowledge about Range Rovers from 1988 to 1989. As I say, it is for sale. If you go onto my posts, you'll see my email address if anybody's interested in maybe making an offer on it. As I say, I really don't know how to value it. I honestly don't know how to value it. I suppose, like a lot of these things that are rare, this is what I tell everybody. When I buy an SD1 or something a bit rare, it's worth what somebody's willing to let it go for and what somebody's willing to pay. There's not really a set price for them. And with me having such little knowledge on this, I wouldn't even want to place a figure where I'd say, oh, I'd let it go for that. I just have no idea. As I say, it really all depends on if this is as rare as people say, and then following on to that, if it's as, you know, if it's a coveted thing to have like that. I can't see why not. Each and every person that said to me, aside from Kingsley, said, yeah, if you've got anything that's a bit obscure about these Range Rover Classics, that's where the money's at. You know, that makes them very, very collectible, very, very desirable. So I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. As Kingsley said, and I agree with this, rare doesn't always mean valuable. Rare can be a bit of an oddity. I've got a fair few cars that are oddities, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily valuable. Valuable to the right person, maybe, if they were looking for it. But like I say, these are a different kettle of fish to just a regular Rover. These have got, you know, the most, people spend £100,000 restoring these. And that's, you know, 4 doors and 2 doors. And I appreciate just being a Vogue SE. Makes it desirable and somewhat valuable. I don't know. I don't know. And then equally, when it comes to that, people don't really mind what condition it is. To a point, maybe. I just don't know. When it goes to these specialist garages, you know, there'll be a garage out there somewhere maybe that would have, you know, just does nothing, like Kingsley's, I suppose. It does nothing but Range Rover Classics, and it go there and they completely gut it, acid bath the shell or fire the shell and rebuild them one piece at a time back to being brand new again. Don't know if this is one of the ones that somebody would be willing to spend that kind of time, money and effort on. I just don't know. It's pretty rare for me to become dumbfounded or something, but every single time I end up investigating anything further into this, it just throws up more questions. It's a real oddity. But I've been busy over the past, well, a few weeks with one thing or another. I've got some more P38 content. I just swapped the gearbox in my daily driver 2.5. I've got a video of the whole experience, and my god, what an experience that was. Basically, the drive plate went, and the torque converter took out the seal on the pump. It happened, thank god, only about 200 feet away from my cousin's farm, so I managed to limp it to the farm, and I stopped it on the driveway as opposed to recovering it, because I've got a Range Rover Sport on the ramp at the moment. So I've got a whole video of how you can, if you absolutely desperately needed to, swap one on a driveway. It took me 2 days. My arms ache. It was a battle, uphill, roundabout, everything about it was a nightmare. So there will be more videos. As I say, I've just been very, very busy with quite a lot of other things going on at the moment. But yeah, if anybody's interested in, as I say, buying the Range Rover Classic, it is for sale, I guess. So yeah, have a nice day everybody, see ya.